But at a time when political vitriol seems to be an assumption now instead of the exception. At a time when we have grown so numb to the images of conflict and bloodshed that the pain we feel is no longer piercing. It's now more of a chronic pain. At a time when people want to turn to those they disagree with and turn to them into enemies, even though we do know that there is far more that unites us than divides us. At a time when so much is at stake for our country, it's history that tells us there are two responses to the brokenness that we face. We can turn our heads and ignore reality, or we can work together to heal. And I'm here because I believe that the people in this room are and can take a leading role in providing the healing that we need right now. But I'm here to tell you that healing doesn't just happen. Healing happens when we're actually willing to work at it. And healing is not alone, it's also progress that does not just happen. Things don't just happen, things are made to happen. And progress is something that we know is not given freely. But progress can be earned. Our journey to this moment has been led by those who marched through darkness in search of the light. They didn't do it because they thought the voyage would be easy or certain. They did it because they knew that their cause was just. That's why they marched. And in this moment, we have an obligation to continue their march, even if it sometimes can feel impossible. Now, I know it's easy to feel skeptical. I can't deny that, because the truth is, I carry a whole lot of skepticism along with me every single day. And I'm a governor. Like so many people inside this room, I have seen and been shaped by the imperfections of this country. I didn't come from a family that was used to writing the bills or the laws. I come from a family that's used to suffering the consequences of it. I'm a son of an immigrant single mom who didn't get her first job that gave her benefits until I was 14 years old. So let's be clear, when we're having conversations about inequitable pay between men and women, or inequitable pay between, or the wealth gap between people of color and non, this is not an academic exercise to me. I don't need white people to explain it because I grew up in it. I felt handcuffs to my wrist by the time I was 11 years old. Because I grew up in a community that was over-policed, and what was most important was that we knew it. My father died in front of me when I was only 3 years old because our healthcare system didn't take care of him. And he died when he could have been saved. Like so many people inside this room, I've been living with the broken promises of politicians all my life. People who said they saw us and didn't. But I also know and recognize that I've been living with the realized promises of those who fought for me, even though they didn't even know. People who believed in the hope of me, even though they knew they might not even see those hopes realized in their own lifetimes. But because of them, because of so many of you, today, I can now stand in front of you as the first Black governor in the history of the state of Maryland, and only the third ever elected in the United States of America. I know the only reason that we can reach so high and we can see so far is because of the shoulders that we stand on. because they're the ones that carried our weight until our shoulders were broad enough for us to be carried on our own. So yes, our history is uneven. We know that some of our nation's founding fathers were men who wrote powerful words, but often acted in ways that were inconsistent with those words. But it's also important to recognize that we're living in a country that was shaped by King, and shaped by Parks, and shaped by Douglas, and shaped by Lewis, and shaped by Jackson. That we live in the United States, which is the greatest democratic experiment in the history of the world. And that is proud Americans, and by the way, the truest definition of patriots that anyone can ever talk about. That we have an opportunity that few people will ever know in their life. That we actually have a chance to meet the moment and make our country better. That's the beauty. That's the beauty, that's the uncertainty, and that is the brilliance of America. That this can be a future of our own making. We are an experiment, an ever-changing, incomplete experiment that is always striving for more, and our sense of national pride is not rooted in a shallow belief that we are the best. Patriotism is not defined by waving a flag. Loving your country does not mean lying about its history. But patriotism is knowing that we can always be better. And knowing that, as the Bible says, faith without work is dead. Our experiment endures when we put in the work. And the NAACP is a living example of the light that our American experience can bring to the world. Because it's this group, both in its past and in its present, who've always chosen to do the work. It's Mary Church Terrell, who did the work when she marched for the right to vote, even when sometimes it meant that she was marching alone. It's Ida B. Wells, who did the work when she captured the horrors of lynching in America, even as others tried to whitewash our history. It's proud Marylander and proud Baltimorean Thurgood Marshall, who did the work when he proved that the nation that was separate was never equal, even if some wanted to keep it that way. So when I look around this room, I see people who every day are continuing the legacy. I see President Johnson, who continues to do the work. I see Chairman Leon Russell, who chooses to do the work. I see Vice Chair Karen Boykin Towns, who chooses to do the work. I see my frat brother, Kobe Little, from Maryland's NAACP. What's going on, frat? Who chooses to do the work. I see our student speaker, Dorian Rogers from Clarksburg, Maryland, who chooses to do the work. That Dorian is part of a new and bold generation that is choosing to do this work every single day, and we need them now. And I'm humbled to say that I'm proud to be part of an administration in the state of Maryland who every day is choosing to do the work too. We are choosing. We are choosing to do the work. We are choosing to continue the march. We are choosing to accept the assignments and understanding what the assignment is. That ours is an administration that continues the march by enacting policies to close the racial wealth gap, including a historic housing package to make housing more affordable and to make sure that our communities are owners of our own destiny. Making sure that we are doing things like fixing broken procurement policies and making sure that our MBEs are getting actually a fair share of government contracts. Making sure we're addressing things like unfair appraisal values in historically redlined neighborhoods, because unfair appraisal values has been one of the greatest wealth thefts that we have seen in our nation's history. Making sure that we're providing capital to our entrepreneurs. And when we talk about wealth, and let's be clear, I want Maryland to be the first state to erase the racial wealth. And when I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking about simply the ability to own more than you own. Simply the ability to pass something on to your children besides debt. Simply the ability to make sure that our children are being trained not just to be employees, but they're trained to be employers. That our administration that's continuing the march when it comes to public safety, where we have now seen the steepest drops in violence and homicides anywhere in the country. And the last time the homicide rate was so low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. We have seen the largest one-year drop in homicide in Maryland history. Now we are continuing in march when knowing that now we are a year into a new market, a cannabis market, which I just announced is now has over $1.1 billion of sales in the state of Maryland. But I want to be very clear, we will never celebrate the benefits of legalization if we do not address the consequences of criminalization. And where just weeks ago, I pardoned 175,000 cannabis convictions, the most frequent state-level pardon in our nation's history. And we were grateful for the fact that to get that done, we stood shoulder to shoulder with the incredible partners from the NAACP, to our union leaders, to our village elders, to our community activists, and to our policy champions. And I also want to be very clear that we also have an incredible partner in President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris as well to get the work done. Now, I know last night the president spoke to the American people with a clear message of unity. He issued a clarion cry that it's time to lower the temperature in our politics. And it's time to come together as a nation. I stand firm in my support of our president. And I stand firm in my support of our president because I know he understands that divided we cannot win. But united, we cannot lose. The president's words last night marked the most recent chapter in a legacy of service that has been guided by decency and empathy and moral clarity. And he reminds us that every day we get up and we do the work. And we do the work during the day, even if the night might be dark. And the reason we do the work is because if we're willing to do that, then joy does come in the morning. That's been our nation's history. Some of our most devastating moments have come when this country was divided. And some of our nation's most inspiring have come when this nation responded by uniting. For 248 years, America has been defined not by its perfection, but by our collective defiance in the face of imperfection. For 248 years, America has been defined not by a single identity, but in our ability to enlarge and improve our understanding of what this country is. That is our march. That's our cry. And that kind of healing in this movement does not just happen, but that we actually make it happen by working together. At a time when many are consumed with darkness, our charge is to do what many have done before us. Keep marching towards the light, knowing that hope will always be cynicism, knowing that faith will always be frustration, knowing that love will always be hate, knowing that peace will always be violence. So let our rejoicing rise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound as loud as the rolling sea, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on until victory is won. God bless you all, and thank you for everything you do for our country, for its courage and for its work. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Attention all convention delegates. Today's motion and remaining programs will be delayed until 1 p.m. Again, today's motions and remaining programs